Welcome. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to create and publish your podcast. It's free. That's right, free to download. With built-in tools to help you record and edit your podcast from your cell phone or any smart device. Anchor also distributes your podcast on virtually any platform that streams podcasts, like Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Apple and Google Podcasts, and many more. You can even monetize your podcast with no minimum listenership. Anchor is your one-stop app for podcasting. Remember, it's free. Go to anchor.fm to create some amazing content.
Powered by Riverside.
Welcome to the Trigger Warning Talk podcast, where we have uncomfortable conversations. We have uncensored conversations. We talk about information and we exchange resources. We provide resources. We have real talk. We don't sugarcoat shit. We don't play games. This is serious business. We also want to let the audience know that this will be streamed on your major platforms via audio and video, coming through Riverside via Anchor. If you're triggered at any point of this podcast, please call 911. There's a bunch of resources that are going to be listed in the show notes also. We have the domestic violence, trafficking, as well as the missing persons information that will be part of the show, all listed in the description. We also have some substance abuse links that are going to be listed in there in the show notes. And also, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can send an email to triggerwarningtalkpodcast@gmail.com. I'm your host, LP. I have a special guest. Her name is Ness Rain. She is a digital content creator. She is the host of a podcast called Dope and Damaged. Ness Rain, I want to welcome to the show. Let's go ahead and just deep dive into these topics because we cover 4 areas under mental health. Again, that's human and sex trafficking, domestic violence, missing persons, and sexually based offenses. Now, when we finish your portion of the podcast, we're going to cover a missing person case. So let's just go ahead and get into your story. I want you to tell me about your personal experience with sexually based offenses and domestic violence, because you have a very interesting story from 2 perspectives, yourself and your sister.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I really, I'm happy to be here and share my story. So, as you said, my name is Ness. I am of Moroccan origin, currently based in Germany in Europe. And I think there is no woman out there that was not sexually harassed, offended, or any of this. Because even just like, touching a woman inappropriately in a club or in the street is sexual harassment in my eyes.
Yep.
So I think most women, 99.9%, have had such an experience. My experience was when I was at the age of 19. I was on the way to meet my management because I was at that time I was still in my very first record deal that I had signed with 15. I was on the way to the office, and it was interesting because the first time I was on the way, I got robbed by a guy who held a knife to my throat and told me, "Give me your bag." And I was stunned. I was really like paralyzed. I couldn't move. And then he pressed the knife a little bit harder to my throat, and I released my handbag. I gave him my purse, and he ran off. And I was like, "Wait, can I at least get my keys?"
Right.
It didn't really register what had happened until like a couple minutes later. I really stood there and like, the hell just happened? I really didn't understand what happened. And so I realized I can't even call anybody. I don't have my phone because my phone was in my purse. So I tried to stop some people and get some attention so they could call the police with their phone. And it really took me like 20 minutes until somebody would actually do it. So the police came, and I was like joking about it and laughing. It didn't really register with me at all. And even one of the policemen, he was like, "Well, you're weird. You're laughing at this. This is crazy." But then there was another police woman, and she was like, no, she's just not, she's like traumatized. She's not even registering fully what happened. It's going to come later when she goes home. So after that, I just went to my management meeting. I told them why I was late, and I kept it moving. Now, at that night, when I came home and I lied in bed, I started crying and I couldn't stop. It just really just registered then. So fast forward 4 weeks later, same thing, same place. I get approached by a young guy. It's not even like an old person or older person, and he just said something extremely inappropriate to me. I don't know. I don't know if I can say it here, but let's just
Oh
say
yeah,
it was.
we do uncensored
Oh
conversations
my
on
gosh,
the podcast.
this
So
is
say
really
what it is. It is
uncomfortable.
what you say.
It's really uncomfortable. So basically, he just asked me if he could come on my boot.
Okay.
It's really bad. So I was like, I just kept it moving. I kept walking. I ignored him. Then he came after me and he said, I'm gonna pay you. And then for some reason, I started yelling at him. And he told me that I'm crazy. So I walked to the office. I just rang the bell. The door opened. I walked into the building. And he came after me, put his hand on my mouth, and started to push me against the wall, and started to kind of like rip off my clothes. And I started yelling and kicking. And thank God the office was just on the first floor, so they heard me and they came down. And later, when the police came and the guys that were working at the office, they gave the description and they identified him as a guy that already raped 7 women in the past 7 weeks.
You said 7 in the past few
7.
weeks?
Yeah,
Wow.
in the past 7 weeks, yeah.
Okay.
So back at that time, I registered what happened. It was just like weird, like, why is this happening to me? Like, in such a short time, like, first I get robbed, now this, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, what is it that makes me such a target? And when you are like in the entertainment industry, you learn to let things, like, you're not allowed to let things affect you. They always tell you to suck it up. So I sucked it up because that's what I knew to do. And that's it. I never really thought about it too much. I never really, how do I say, processed it the right way or anything like that. This came much, much later, like years later. So fast forward in 2017, I have a younger sister. I had a younger sister. She was at home. The whole building there were like people there working, plumbers. They were renewing the bathroom. So this plumber was at her place and he was just like, told her to stay, and she needed to stay in the building until 4 p.m. because they had work to do. So he kept going back and forth, going back and forth. And to me, I was on the phone with her, and then it was weird to me simply because she really lived at the top floor. I mean, it's only the 5th floor, but still, it was a hot day. And there is no elevator. So for somebody to come up all the time to want to check something, he wanted to check the faucet. The second time, he wanted to check the shower, and he always kept coming back to check things, and it was weird for me. I really thought it was weird. And then the time when I was on the phone with her and he came and he didn't want to leave, and I had to tell her, why is he still standing there? Like, tell him to go. And then she told him, okay, thank you, bye. And I said, you know what, this is weird. Maybe you need to come out of this place and just come to us. And she said, but I can't. They told me to stay here till 4 p.m. So my sister and I were very, very close. And she's one of those people, she would call me like 10, 15 times a day. Whether I was busy or not, she didn't care. If she wanted to tell me something or ask me something, she would call me. So even that day, I made a joke with her. I was like, you know what? We're going to train you now to call me less times a day. Like from 15, we're going to go down to 12. So you already had 2 today. You have 10 more to go. So be very
Be mindful of your calls.
Exactly. And normally when we end the phone call, she would always say, okay, speak soon. That day she didn't say it. And then I said, yeah, I know what you're going to say. You're going to tell me speak soon. And she just like, had a very weird reaction. She didn't really say anything. So then 4:30 p.m., I sent her a text message because I haven't heard from her. And I'm like, okay, this is like, she's taking it too personal. She's trying to prove a point here. I don't get no response. And evening time comes, I don't get no call, I get no response. My mom calls me, she goes like, well, have you heard from your sister? I thought you girls wanted to come for dinner. And I was like, yeah, but maybe she fell asleep or I don't know. And I knew like she was engaged at that time and they had like an argument. So I thought,
Okay.
okay, maybe she's like meeting him and they're gonna talk it out, talk it through, whatever. And then, call it paranoid or whatever. 10 p.m. comes and I'm calling him. And I didn't say anything. I was like, hey, how are you? How's it going? And he asked me about my sister, and that made it very clear she wasn't with him. So I kept calling and calling the whole, like, till 1 p.m. in the morning. I mean, sorry, 1 a.m. in the morning, and nothing. So the next morning, my mom says, well, this is really weird. Like, we didn't hear from her. I'm going to go to the doctors and then I'm going to go to her place. And mind you, at that time, I was living in the UK, in London. I was just here to visit. Then my older sister calls me and she was like, oh, mom wants me to go by Yaz's place and check on her. This is so annoying. She knows I have a flight to take. Now I have to deal with that. I said, you know what? Don't do it. I'm gonna just go by there. I'm gonna take a cab and just go by. She goes like, no, no, it's fine. I'm already on my way. And she had my two nieces with her. So they
Okay.
ring in the bell. Nobody opens the door. Then I said, okay, just ring the neighbors, and then they're gonna let you in the building, and you just go upstairs and knock the door. Maybe she's sleeping or something. But it was weird already. But I was like still being like, no, it's all good. Nothing happened. Then I called the police. The police didn't want to come. They said, maybe she went out and she was partying and she's like maybe, has a hangover. And I'm like, look, my sister does not drink and she does not have a hangover. She has, sometimes she blacks out. So if you guys don't want to come, she might be in there and something might have happened to her. You guys don't want to come. And then they go like, okay, then we're coming. Because I was like really like getting upset with them on the phone. And they came with the paramedics and everything because I told them that maybe something is wrong with her.
So
So
they did a wellness check. That's what we call it.
wellness check. Okay, I didn't know
Check.
that.
Yeah.
So they
It's
told
called.
us they told us to stay in the streets downstairs. I mean, sorry, no. Oh my gosh, I'm all over the place. I'm so sorry. This story still obviously gets to me a lot. So I was on the
Take your time.
phone. I was on the phone with my niece, and so they come and they tried to get through the window, when they put up this whole big thing so that they can try to go through the window, but the
Yeah.
window was closed, so they had to break open the door.
Do a forced
What?
entry. Yeah.
Yes. When they
Forced entry.
did that, she was nowhere to be found. When they entered the bathroom, she was in the bathtub dead. And it was the craziest feeling I ever experienced. I can't even describe it. So I didn't know what to do. I just hung up with my niece. I called a couple of my friends. I knew that one of them, he is self-employed, so he was not bound to a schedule, from work. And I know his girlfriend, she was working with him, so she also did not have like a 9 to 5 where I know she was at work and couldn't come. So I told her what happened, and she didn't believe me. She's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "No, she's really dead. Like, can you come?" So they came, they picked me up. We went there, but we were not allowed to go upstairs. They said we're not allowed because they don't know what happened, what's going on. And then the policeman, I'm like, what are you talking about? Of course she has a phone and it's there. I can even tell you where it is. And then I told him, he went looking, he said, it's not there. And he said, and her ID is missing and her bank card is missing too. And that was very weird. So at that time, that plumber that was doing the work at that place, or one of the plumbers, he came by and he kind of like walked into me. But imagine where I was standing, there was so much room. He had so much room to pass without walking into me. But for some reason, he just walked into me. And for me, it was weird. I had a crazy feeling. I know maybe people don't believe in intuition or whatever. I do strongly because I know it's true. Intuition is real. It was weird. So I told the police he did it because I know he was acting weird the day before. And my other sister, she went after him. She goes like, wait, wait, wait. Did you see my sister? And then he was like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know your sister. And that was also weird. Like his reaction was weird to me. So I said to the policeman, he did it. I know he did it. He said, you cannot say that. I understand you're emotional. I said, I don't care what you say. I don't care what you understand. I know he did it. They wanted to do an autopsy. Now, in my religion, we don't do autopsies. So they
Okay.
asked me, hey, do you want the autopsy? I'm like, well, we don't really do that, and I don't know what to decide right now. I don't know. Then the policeman came back and he told me, no,
You talking about the prosecutor?
the prosecutor, he ordered an autopsy because the phone is missing and the bank card and the ID. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. So they brought her down in this big black bag over her. It was so crazy to me because this is something I just never would have imagined, or it's just like even now I can't even, it was just the craziest thing ever. So by that time it was me, my two friends, my nieces, my older sister, her husband, and another friend, and then we went to my parents. Now when my mom, she wanted to come to my sister prior, as I was telling, my sister had called her and sent her home. She goes like, oh, go home, I gotta talk to you about something, you don't need to go there, I got it already and stuff. And so my parents were home when we arrived, and my mom saw us from the window. Now she sees 8 people, with straight faces. And then she said, if it's gonna be big bad news about Yasmina, don't even come up. So we went upstairs, we told them what happened, and we just sat home waiting for the autopsy results. When the autopsy results came, they said it was natural causes. She had some poisoning, like her body poisoned itself. It was really, I didn't understand it. And for me, it was okay. It's natural. Maybe it is what it is, like she had stomach pains prior and stuff. So it kind of like made sense. But a couple people didn't believe that, not even in a second. And I was like torn. I don't know. Is this a crime? Is this natural? I don't know what to believe. I don't know which way it is. So I just left it at that, and the next morning we wanted to see the flat, but they said this is a crime scene. But the policeman, for some reason, he made an exception. We were allowed to go in the flat, but we were not allowed to touch anything. And to me, it was like, so why am I here? I just need to look for the phone and I cannot touch anything. We might as well just leave.
Right.
Um, then 2 days later, we went to Morocco to bury her. We buried her in Morocco. This is where I'm originally from, and this is how most of the people do it. And the funny part is she always said she wanted to be buried there, so
And
we
this
did
happened.
that.
This happened in Germany, right?
This
Where she
happened in
died.
Germany.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when we were in Morocco, when this one friend, like it was a couple that took me there, and everything, and were there with us. She told me, don't worry about it. I do the communication with the police, and I'll let you know if anything. So when I came back, I came back to London because I was really so confused. I didn't know what to do. And I just felt like, okay, so do I go to London and live my life like until I hear something? Do I go to Germany? What do I do? So I went to London, but then the police called me and they said they wanted to talk to me. And I'm like, yeah, makes sense. Why did I even come here in the first? I was just really confused.
Okay.
So I flew out to Germany. I did the whole uh, interrogation. They asked me a bunch of questions, and I realized they were taking it somewhere completely different. They asked me, because my sister, she's a girl. I don't know how it is with certain cultures, but in my culture, it's normal that people or women have a lot of clothes, a lot of makeup, a lot of shoes. This is what feminine girls do. And she did have that. And they were talking about, oh, maybe your sister had a second life that you're not aware of. And I was like, excuse me? My sister calls me like 20 times a day. You can check my phone, you can check her phone, and you will see exactly that. So, if she wouldn't even have the time to have a second life. Like when? And she's not even the type. She was a very playful person that just loved makeup, shoes, and clothes. And they said, well, one of her friends said something different. And I was like, what, why? What could they possibly say? And they were not allowed to tell me, obviously. And that's okay. So I was just like, okay, you know what? Instead of like following a lead that's completely nonsense, maybe I should just like do your job and find out what really happened, because by that time they told me that the people from the autopsy made a mistake. She did not die
Also,
of
the
natural
coroner made a
causes.
mistake on the autopsy. What was the mistake?
You know, up to now, up to now I don't know, because when I finally, after everything, got the file, the whole reports, they tried to find it was like full of excuses, why they didn't see certain things. For example, she had she had a bruise here. And when I asked the police, I said, well, she has a bruise in her face. Oh, this just happened during the transport. It has nothing to do with the incidents. And I'm like, this is crazy. Doesn't sound right to me. But okay, you know, because according to the police, I was getting involved in the investigation too much. And to me, they were slow. And I'm one of those people, I cannot sit around and do nothing. I got to be active. So I started my own investigation, because what happened then, a day later, they arrested my friend that was there with us. And they said he is a suspect because one of the neighbors identified him for 70%. Now, funny enough, he does look very similar to the guy who did it. So, yes, the neighbor seen him there because he was there. He was downstairs. He was with us. So, they came to his place. They really ripped his place apart, and they took him in and they interrogated him for 5 hours. And I spoke to the police and they said to me, we know he didn't do it. We know this is a waste of time. You don't need to tell us, but it's by law that if somebody says they identify somebody, we have to question them. So I was like, okay, whatever. So now these friends started being upset with me and blaming me for this. And he said, I wish I never helped you. I wish I wasn't there because of you. I got this problems. I'm like, it's going to be okay. Your DNA is not going to be found in that place because you wasn't there. You didn't do it. But anyways, so this kept going for a couple more days. And this was on a Friday, on July 14th in 2017. I get a phone call, and I was so paranoid by then because this whole case was weird. So I get a phone call from the policeman, and he says to me, I gotta meet you right now. I'm gonna come to your place, and I'm gonna meet you there. And for some reason, it just was weird to me. Why was he like? Which policeman does that? They're always in twos. They never do anything on their own. So why is he telling me that he's gonna come? And said, you want to come on your own? He said, yes. I gotta just talk to you. I don't have much time. It just was like in a movie to me. Like, why would you want to meet me? This is weird. I said, no, I'm not gonna meet you at my place. I'm gonna come to where you are. And then he goes like, no, you can't. I'm like, what do you mean I can't? Okay, my friend, she's gonna come from work and she's gonna come with me. And he goes like, no, 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 no. Then it's gonna be too late. I'm like, too late for what? He said, I can't tell you on the phone. I said, no, if you're gonna tell me on the phone. He goes like, no, I can't. I said, okay, you know what? We're gonna have a big problem because I'm not with this shit. Can we curse?
Yes.
I'm not with this shit. So you know what? And I can be, sometimes if I get angry, I get angry. It is what it is. Especially in that situation, I was extremely angry, extremely frustrated, and extremely confused. So he tells me, okay, I didn't want to tell you on the phone for you, but if you want me to tell you, I will. I'm sorry to tell you, but your sister did not die of natural causes. She was murdered. I'm like, what? Why? That was my first question. Like, why? I was really shocked. I did not see this coming. It's just like, no, it was completely out of question for me in a way, I guess, although it was in my head somehow, but like the possibility was there, but I never thought this is going to be the outcome of this. He said, I just wanted to tell you we have the guy because I don't want you to find out through social media or the media or whatever, because we arrested him in his house and there were people with their phones and everything. I'm not even supposed to tell you yet, but I have to tell you. It's just like, my conscience wouldn't let me. And I said, okay, can you tell me who this is? Because at that time, my friend was suspecting her fiance because of the argument. And I was like, no, he would never do that. But then, you never know with people. So you start questioning everything. And I just wanted to make sure if that it wasn't him. And he goes like, I could tell you it wasn't him. And I'm like, so who then? He said, I can't tell you. I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to tell you then. I said, it was the plumber. And then he went quiet. And then I said to him, see, it was him, right? I told you from the first day, and you didn't want to believe me. I told you. Then he said, I didn't say yes. I said, you don't need to. And because it was the weekend, you know how it goes. People don't work on the weekends. So we had to wait till Monday. Now, Monday, everything went crazy. The whole press, there was a press conference. Whole press found out about it. There was all crazy articles in the newspapers, on TV. The police came. They said, hey, my whole family, they were still in Morocco. So it was just me, my brother, and my friends that I had around me. And 4 weeks later, like a month later, by that time, when everything, like really, when they arrested him, when everything happened and everything came out. I mean, so I had the media harassing us, on social media, to where I had to change my name, block my, like, not shut down my accounts, but private, make them on private, put them on private. They were writing my nieces, my sister, and everybody else, around us. We finally got the key to my sister's place to take out all the stuff and clean it and whatnot. They even went there. They went through. They broke open her mail, her letterbox, opened her mail. It just went really too far, and I
Let
never
me
really. Yeah,
let me ask you something.
yeah.
So, how much time passed from the initial autopsy results, which were natural causes, to when they determined that it was not natural causes? How much time went by?
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Okay.
3 weeks. Because, I don't know how it is in the US, but apparently here in Germany or in the Europe, because of this data protection thing, which is very much stricter here in Europe, it is where, so even though the police, if they basically catch someone and they send the DNA in to be checked, these people are not allowed to tell you who the DNA belongs to unless there is other real evidence that proves this person is the one, and they just use the DNA as confirmation. So they
Okay.
had to, although they sent the DNA in early because they went to his work and they did a swap, like they took his saliva to, to check his DNA. And even the policewoman who did that, she said to me, he was so calm. He even looked me in my eyes, and he was laughing and everything. There was no sign of it, of like guilt or anything, and that's amazing. But only a psychopath can, act that well, I guess. When everything was in the media, there was obviously a lot of false articles and a lot of fake stuff, and the police specifically told us not to react. My sister is somebody, unfortunately, who doesn't listen to these things. She did react, and it made it even worse. And unfortunately, that's when we really clashed a lot. And they had him. He was in jail. We had a little bit of more information on who he was. He was 35 at that time. He had a family. Because he ended up, when they interrogated him, when they arrested him, he was denying it for the longest, and then he admitted it. And when he admitted it, he said, I want people to know that I'm not sick and I know exactly what I was doing. And
Okay. So he didn't plead insanity.
no, he did not. He said that he knows exactly what he was doing. He told he told them that he had already his next victim because they arrested him on a Friday. He was gonna go to work on Monday and do the same thing to an ex-girl.
Oh wow.
And
So he was a sociopath.
yes, but well, he was for me he was a psychopath
Serial.
because the crazy part of it all is that he attacked two girls prior to my sister, and he attempted to rape them and kill them, but they could escape. They took him to court, but though they had severe injuries and proof from doctors and everything, the judge didn't believe them because he was clever. You know, he went to the police and he sued them first. Like he went to the police and he reported them. He said like the one attacked him because he didn't fix her sink the way that she wanted it to be fixed. So she attacked him because he had like a scratch, you know, in his face. And then he said she attacked him. So now, because you know, they say when you're the first to report something, then basically the story is yours because they believe you. So these girls went to court. They did not believe him. So he was let go, and he did say, had the police done a better job back then with the girls, had they just locked me away, this would have never happened. And what's interesting for me because I'm into psychology, I always want to know the why and how, and you know, he said his trigger is what really it really confused the hell out of me, and I learned so much through this one information. His trigger was he actually is triggered. He likes girls who are he likes curvy girls, but mainly he likes girls who have like a younger voice, like a you know, like a younger voice. So that's
Yeah.
how he also determined his next victim and the other two girls that he attacked prior. And that was very interesting to me because I had no idea this existed. I had no idea, you know, I was around. I'm not like I seen some stuff in life, you know, I've been around some stuff, but this was like straight out of a CSI episode because what he did is the reason why they found her in a bathtub, he raped her and he strangled her with her phone cable. That's why the phone cable was gone. He took it and then she had hold of her phone. She tried to call for help, and he took it away from her. And then when he strangled her, he said she turned blue, and she was making funny noises. And then he thought she was dead, but the results came back with that she died from drowning in a bathtub. He put her in the bathtub because he wanted to clean. You know, he showered her with lukewarm water because he said he saw on CSI that when you wash someone with luke water, you wash all the traces and evidence away. But they found his DNA in her, obviously. Um, so then it was just like crazy because he also admitted that the wife that he married, she's not mentally, I don't know how to say it. Let's say her IQ was not really high. And he said he married her on purpose. All his relationships he picked, so these women don't know what he's up to and what he's doing because they also suspected that he abused his 11-year-old daughter. Makes sense with being triggered by young voices. His wife in the beginning, she was like, "Oh, he's the best husband ever," and blah blah blah. He hardly has friends. He had a couple people that knew him. They didn't. Their testimonies said that he was really weird, and he always was extremely acting like crazy. So they didn't want to like be around him for too much. Um, so then his wife came out with the truth, and she brought in 4 laptops. I don't know, I forgot how many hard drives, phones, and iPads with violent porn movies that he was apparently watching regularly. And so
Any child porn stuff on there? Any pedophilia,
no,
infant
no.
data, or anything like that on his computers?
No, not that I know of. Let me say it like that. Not that I know of. I didn't really get in that part too deep. But when they questioned the 11-year-old girl, she had a very weird behavior as well, and she was also going through therapy, and because she was from his prior relationship with the girl that he married. They had a 5-year-old son, and she said he was also treating him badly. Like if the kid wouldn't eat, he would just like lock him out on the balcony for hours. He was just like, I don't have no words for this. Um, so then finally, we received the court papers and everything. So imagine it was July, so we received the court papers in September. I mean, there's a prosecutor who deals with it, but you can also get your own lawyer and just like, sue as well. So we did that. And 3 weeks before the trial in December, it was going to be a 5-day trial. It was going to also have the other girls present, and also the prior police, that dealt with the case, the prosecutor, and the what you call it, the judge, But three
Yes.
weeks prior, he happened to commit suicide in jail.
Really?
Yeah.
How?
Apparently he was on watch, like every 15 minutes. So this was very
Okay.
interesting to me, because if somebody's on the watch list, and he's being checked on every 15 minutes, so how much time did he have really to commit suicide, when he took his sheet and he hung himself? And that takes time. And it was a
Yeah.
statement, it was a statement that said, I'm going to end this. I'm in charge. I got the power. And at the same time, he left a letter, which was really crazy. And he said that he cannot take it anymore because he's bullied by um, all the foreign inmates. Now, here in Europe, it's a little bit different than in the States. You have to see, like, all different cultures here in Europe, we kind of like connect, It's not like every culture keeps to themselves, or we mix a little bit. Like, we're literally all together, whether it's Turkish people, Middle Eastern people, Black people, Latino people, like, we're all like, it's a big pot, and we all hang out with whoever, and we're very open and embrace cultures and different cultures. And, I'm not saying racism does not exist. It clearly does exist here as well. This is a Western country. Of course, racism exists here and is real. But I'm just saying, like, if you are a foreigner and an open person, you are very open and embracive towards, like, when it comes to other cultures and people. So that's how we live here. So that's when he says he was bullied by foreign inmates. I just wanted to clarify what that meant, foreign inmates.
Okay.
And people,
No, thank you for that, because again, we're not talking about a case that happened on U.S. soil. This happened in the UK, and it's a whole different. The
in
prison
Germany,
system is totally different over in the UK. So I wanted to thank you for educating us on
it's
those things.
it's Germany, not the UK.
Germany, I'm sorry,
I was
Germany.
living in the UK, but this
In
happened in
Europe,
Germany.
that's what
Yeah,
I meant.
Europe.
Europe.
Yes, yes. Oh, yes, it's definitely different, because, at the end of the day, I'm happy he committed suicide, because he was going to get 15 years. That's what they consider life here. And then he's going to be evaluated. His mental state would be evaluated after 15 years. And if they want to let him out, they would. Otherwise, he will be evaluated every 3 years, like when he's 18 years, locked in, 21, 24, and so forth. And they feel that these people are going to change, because they locked a guy up who raped a little girl in the 90s. And 3 days after they let him go, 15 years later, he went and he raped another 7-year-old girl. And then he told them, well, at least I didn't kill her this time, so I'm getting better.
Damn.
Exactly.
I wanted you to tell me about how Yasmin, how she influenced you in terms of the work that you're doing now a little later on. You also told me when we did our pre-interview that you also were sexually assaulted at 19.
Yeah, I was harassed, how I told you earlier, and how she influenced me. I mean, this was something I never thought was gonna happen. I was very close to her. We were a lot alike. We had a lot of things in common. She was really like me, and we had a lot of fun together and everything. We liked similar things, and she was very supportive and the most annoying person in the world all at the same time. And
Like my siblings are.
oh, she was annoying, my goodness. So, my background is in entertainment. I was in music and stuff, and I was living my life where, I do my TV stuff, I do my music stuff. I'm just like caught up in that bubble where I'm just like constantly going, 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 and trying to accomplish. So, after that, I wanted to do a podcast when she was still around. But the kind of podcast I
Okay.
wanted to do was, you know, more talking about culture, talking about entertainment. I wanted a couple of girls with me so we can have, do what every other podcaster is almost doing, or like one of those bigger podcasts when it comes to entertainment and culture and stuff like that. And when this thing happened, I didn't want to do anything for a while. And then I wanted to, this sounds so weird because even when I used to see these kind of cases on TV and in the media, they always seemed so, I wouldn't say fake, but it's like, oh my God, what they all go through the same stuff. All of a sudden they all found God. All of a sudden they all want to do good things. But I felt the same way, and I felt like a walking hypocrite, you know? Like, oh my God,
Really?
I swear. I swear. I felt like, because if I hate something, it's hypocrisy
Okay.
and stupidity. I'm very allergic to these things. So I felt like a hypocrite, because all of a sudden I got closer to God. I was always a believer. I was always religious, but I was not like practicing hard or anything. I mean, I'm still not practicing 100%, but I definitely found the way to God. I got closer to God. It made way more sense from a religious standpoint, and I'm happy that I went back there. So this was something that happened through all of this, and I wanted to do something good. I always wanted to, and I always did charity and stuff like that. I was always involved in charity projects, but I wanted to do more. It wasn't enough. It seemed like I'm not doing enough. And then I said, you know what? I want to change my podcast. I actually want to do what I wanted to do as a kid, because as a kid, before I got into music, I always wanted to be a journalist. And now me coming from Morocco, from North Africa, I wanted to talk about the African continent. I wanted to talk about the misery. I wanted to talk about what people are going through in the world. So then I was like, I want to have a platform where I talk to people with real voices, real stories, real opinions. Even if we talk about, if we talk about something stupid like gardening, I don't want it to be fake, because I had enough of all this glamour from the entertainment industry. I had enough of all this fakeness and pretending. So I wanted realness. And that's why I changed the podcast and I called it Dope and Damaged. That means perfectly imperfect, and we don't have to be one or the other. Why can we not embrace our flaws? Why can we not be okay with not being okay and being okay with our issues? This is
With your podcast, when did it start? What year?
um it was it started and stopped and started and stopped, and then continuously since 2020.
2020.
Yeah.
And when you did your first episode, was it an intro or did
No.
you have a guest?
Yes. It was
You had a guest?
it was the most horrible um episode I ever did. It was the most horrible experience on camera I ever had, because remember, mind you, I'm doing this since I'm 15. I'm on TV since I'm 18, 19. Now I'm doing this podcast and I had all these grand ideas and no idea at the same time. I knew in my head what I want to achieve, but I didn't know how to get there, if it makes sense. So I'm
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
So I had my
You always have this perfect. You always have this perfect idea. Like you want it to be so perfect. The graphics, the sound, the audio. Like you got all this. And I'm telling you, every time I do one, I feel like I'm learning something. I don't edit out a whole lot of the mistakes. Some I
me
will,
neither.
but for the most part, it's like, you know what? I want it to be organic. That's why I don't do pre-drafted questions. We just do a pre-interview, and that's where I come up with the show topics in terms of talking points. But yeah, it's a learning experience every time I do one of these interviews, and I love it. It drives me crazy sometimes, but I love it.
No, don't. You know why? Because look, I'm on episode. I recorded already over 100 episodes. I didn't put them all out yet because we record in advance. But what I will say
Sure.
is, don't get frustrated because it's amazing to grow and show the audience the growth, and this is real, and we are about what we do, like what I do, what you do is real topics, real issues, real incidents. So
Right.
let's be real about it. Why be fake or anything? It's fine if you mess up. It's okay if the episode wasn't great. The next one will be better, so
Absolutely. And I'm telling you, I've been interviewed on other podcasts like yours. I've been doing this for almost 8 months now. We started back in September,
hmm
and so for me, it's uh, it's such a learning experience, but it's fun and exciting. Like I look forward to interviewing people. I look forward to having these dialogues.
absolutely.
You in 2020, you said that you did some orphanage work in the UK and in Africa. Can you talk about that?
um I did not in the UK. I did it in Morocco. And
In
in
Morocco.
yeah, and we took it then also to what you call it, to Uganda. And what we did
You can.
is, because that was something that was very dear to my sister. She um she always told me how she wanted to do something for orphans and stuff. So I then it was me, my mom, and a friend when we went to Morocco, because my older sister, she is always doing something like that. She's really, my older sister and I, we don't really see eye to eye. Like we don't really get along. But when it comes to this, she really did some amazing stuff. So we actually picked these kids up. We organized it with the orphanage and everything. We picked these kids up and we took them out, and they had like really a great time. We took them to the beach and they could play, and we got them toys, and we got them some food and stuff. And then like it was a very, very touching experience for me. But at the same time, I was not sure if it's the right thing because it can go two ways. You can give kids something like that, and they're going to hold on to it, and they're going to grow up with that memory, and maybe that memory is going to be the thing that inspires them and motivates them to work hard and get have a good life. But at the same time, is this really fair if you show them like a day in your world and then they have to go back to their world and that's it?
Do you have contact with these children after you left, or do you still do their work?
I haven't been back because of the pandemic, unfortunately, but I would love to. I'm looking to go this summer. If all goes well, you never know. And I definitely stay in touch with the nonprofit that helped make it happen. And I try to be really hands-on with, when they grow up. I do do a lot of mentorship as well. And I started doing mentorship with what do you call it, with a nonprofit in the UK. I think this is where the mix-up came. These are kids
Okay.
from unprivileged backgrounds, like, people from not so nice situations at home or unprivileged countries. And, they just came to the Western world and have a heavy time adapting because these people are traumatized. A lot of these people saw war, they saw their own house being blown up, they saw family members being blown up. This is not something that is easy to deal with. And for me, this is something that's really, really hard to deal with because uh, I feel like I'm so traumatized, and it's getting a little bit better, but it really depends on the day because for me, it's just like I cannot hear certain stories. When this whole George Floyd thing happened, and then this Castillo what is it?
Okay, still.
Yeah, and all of these cases, it really, really, and some of these, especially Corinne Bailey, is one of the cases that really touched me. Breonna Taylor, so much because I really, really, really felt what this woman experience. It was like similar to what I had experienced, this whole waiting, not knowing what's going on, and going to the hospital and have to wait there for hours, and then you get told like wrong information. Oh, your daughter already left or whatever, and then you have to go back to the crime scene and nobody wants to talk to you. It really, 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 really got to me a lot. And I I don't know fully how to deal with these things and how to process them because it makes me angry. It makes me hella angry.
What's your review on therapy? Because I know you said it makes you angry, and obviously it's a source of hurt and pain with having her loss, especially the way she was killed and the fact that she was killed. What is your view on therapy, not only for yourself, but just overall?
Therapy is great. If you got the right therapist, I always say it's like dating. If you find the right person that gets you without even trying, you know, and that knows what you need and how to help you, it's a great experience because with therapists, it's just like really, it's a connection. You have to have that connection. Otherwise, you're not going to have a good experience.
One of the things that I always tell people, especially about social media platforms like Clubhouse, where you and I met, and even on podcasts, is I think that when we talk about therapy, we have to be very mindful of the goals of therapy.
Yes.
We don't do therapy on podcasts.
No.
I know there are people that do therapy on podcasts, just like I know there are people that do therapy in social media platforms like on
Yeah.
Clubhouse. I believe that's so wrong. It's so bad, and it's wrong as all outdoors. That's the least I can say, and I'm just being nice.
Yes.
I don't really give a damn how it makes somebody feel, and I have called people out in some of these social media rooms, like on Clubhouse, for example, and I've told them, hey, you can have a support room. That's no problem. If you're not doing real conversations about the topics that you're supporting these people on, like I don't agree when they have the replays off. Because I look at it like this. If Ness and I are having a private conversation, then we're having a private conversation. But if we're having it on a social media platform, it's social. It's a social media platform. You have the power to say what you want to say just as well as you have the power to not say what you don't want to say. If you come on this podcast and you say, you know what, I only want to talk about what happened to me. I don't want to talk about what happened to my sister. I'm going to be like, okay, let's just talk about what happened to you. If you said, hey, I want to, on your podcast, if you just wanted to talk about other people and never talk about your personal experiences, that's fine too. And so when I see the replays being turned off and the host will say, well, the reason we're turning the replays off is because people may not want to share if they know the replays are on because it's being recorded. Well, I can record a conversation on my phone. I can record it on my iPad. I can record it on my computer. I can buy a little handheld digital recorder. Like I can record it all kind of ways, and the replays are off. So I don't get that when people do that. However, I always say that when you want to tell your story, especially for people that come on our podcast, we ask them, what's a hard stop for you? Give me a list of your don'ts, because anything that you say on that don't list, we're not going to broach that topic. We're not going to talk about it, period, point blank. You have the power of telling your story and giving all the information that you want, or as little as you want. Doesn't matter to me. I just want you to be honest no matter what you talk about. And so on your platform, Dope and Damaged, which is a great podcast,
Thank
I must
you.
say. When you talk to your guests, what are some of the parameters that you have for your show topics?
I don't have anything. You know why? Because I just tell people, here's the thing. And this is something I learned when being on TV and in the entertainment oh my gosh, industry. And that is, when the mic's on and the camera is rolling, you're responsible for whatever and however people perceive you. So what I say to people is, you're here, you can open up, you can share as much as you want. What you don't want to say, we don't use, or we don't you don't say. I have it like in life, because I interview celebrities for TV and stuff like that. So I had many times where people just like talked more than they intended to, and it was like, oh shit, I didn't mean to say that. And I'm like, that's cool. I'm not one of those people where I'm happy to have this removed, So I don't really, I am very big on boundaries, and I respect and accept people's boundaries as well. But I want to have an organic conversation. Picture the situation, like, let's say you and I would be somewhere in the airport. We just happen to meet, or we sit next to each other on a plane, or we met in a restaurant and we just happen to talk. I want that organic conversation. I don't want to be prepared. I don't want to know already things. I just want to know just a little bit so that I know what we're talking about, and if it makes sense to have you on the podcast. But anything more, I want people to get my genuine reaction, my genuine first question, and all of that. Yeah.
The conversations are very organic. Most of the conversation is the guest talking.
Yeah.
And it's intentionally set up like that. How can people get in touch with you as far as being on your show, finding your show, and all the other things that you do in the social media world?
So I'm on Instagram, Ness_Reign, REIGN. And you can find me on Facebook with Ness Brain. And you can find me on TikTok. You can find me, so it's Ness_Reign. And it's Dope and Damaged also on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I also it's a baby still. Started a group for women on Facebook. It's called Women of Substance. So definitely join that as well if you want and care. And the crazy part, what I wanted to say, this is just, I was a long time, because I learned also to not tell my story. I was not supposed to tell private things or anything, like, until social media came. And then it was all of a sudden, well, the more you talk about yourself, the better. The more authentic and personal you are, the better. And it was a huge transition, and I didn't transition well. So I never really told my story, because there's way more to my person than this. I don't know if you remember, I told you some of it as well. So I don't know if we touch on this or not. It's up to you. It's your show.
Oh, hey, the mic is yours.
So yeah, I was not supposed to tell it, because I am actually supposed to do a big show pertaining to this topic that I will touch now. It was to be a scripted TV show, but it got pushed back. It's supposed to happen in the US. It got pushed back because of the pandemic, and now it got pushed back again. But I'm sick and tired of like having to not tell my story, and not hide this portion of my story. So I'm just gonna say it here. And I mean, it's out there. It's not like a secret, because before this opportunity with the show came along, I already spoke about it. To me, it's not something that I come somewhere in a room and say, "Hi, my name is Ness, and I am," like this has, when the situation comes, I will definitely disclose. But other than that, and it's just the pandemic. Also, we all are meeting like people more virtually than in person, so it's also different. So yeah, at the age of 5, I lost my sight due to an operation gone wrong.
Okay.
That's the story. Well, that's the part of the story. And yeah. Oh, because I was in the US a few months ago, and we were gonna start shooting in July. But now they pushed it back again to end of the year. So, it's just like, and I was not like, the agreement was not to talk about it so much in public, because, they wanted it to come out when the show comes out and all of that. But yeah.
No, we got so much more to work on, you and I, and we're going to be doing joint projects together. I'm looking forward to it. The other day when I was in your room on Clubhouse, I'm telling you, it was a small room, but I love small rooms because the conversations that we had in that small room were phenomenal. I'm telling you, it's way better than going to some of these rooms on Clubhouse and 500, 1,000 or more people in there. You got 100 moderators. Everybody's not following the one mic rule. There's a bunch of chaos and garbage, and it's just horrible. That room that you had the other day was great. It was very intimate in terms of how the conversation was not only organic, people were making connections in terms of, hey, I want some of those people that were on that show to be guests on the podcast, because they have some great stories about trafficking and sexual abuse and just all kind of things that we cover here on the Trigger Warning Talk podcast. I want to thank you so much, Ness, for being on the show. Like, I can talk to you every day and twice on Sunday, and we're going to be talking more and more because of these work projects that we're getting ready to start doing jointly. I want to have all your contact information that you verbally said, listen in the show notes in the description. And again, at any point for the listeners and the watchers, if you are triggered, first, always call 911. What's the 911 number over in the UK or in Morocco?
Oh my gosh, in Morocco, I don't know. Shame on me. Oh my gosh, I really don't. Was it 222? I don't remember. In the UK, it's 999.
Ness, it's always a pleasure. I will talk to you later on.
Thank you, LP, so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it was a pleasure.
Absolutely. You have a great day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. So that's Ness Rain. Again, she's on the Dope and Damage podcast. You can check her out each week, streaming on all platforms. I'll have all her social media links listed on the show notes, or in the show notes, I should say. And we just love having these conversations because they're just so organic and, they're informative. We like having real talk. We like having real discussions, and we like for people to understand that when you are having these traumas, the only way that you can go ahead and get past them is having dialogue. And that's part of why we have this podcast. So for me, it just is very important for the listeners to know and understand what's going on and why we do what we're doing. The other thing that I want to tell the listeners is we're going to go ahead and move to the last portion of our show when Rain logs off, and that's covering the missing persons case. And so we always do a missing person case at the end of every episode. This missing person case that we cover today is going to be very similar to the ones that we do on each episode of the Trigger Warning Talk podcast. It's covering a Black or brown man, woman, or child. Okay, and this person that we're going to be covering today, her name is MARIAH Edwards. MARIAH Edwards is a young African-American female. She was last seen on September 28th, 2010. At that time, she was 18 years old. She comes from Blue Island, Illinois, which is in Cook County. She's 5'2". 100 pounds, black hair, brown eyes. There was an alleged serial killer named Sonny Pierce who was arrested in 2010 for two girls that were missing, and they were later found murdered. And he is still awaiting trial on all three of those cases. So there were two other girls that are missing, including MARIAH, and he's the suspect. He's the alleged perpetrator. A video was found on his computer inside his residence revealing that there was a brutal torture of MARIAH's last moments, and she's still missing. If you have any information on MARIAH Edwards, please contact the Cook County State Attorney's Office, 773-674-5499. Again, any information that you have on MARIAH Edwards, please contact the Cook County State's Attorney Office at 773-674-5499. I want to play a news clip of the story from CBSNews.com. They did a story on MARIAH and about this. All right, well, I don't have the audio of that, so again, I'll just read the story real quick. Suburban Chicago man Sonny Pierce has been charged in the rapes and murders of three young women he met on telephone chat lines, and authorities believe he might be a serial killer responsible for more deaths. Pierce, who was already in jail for the rape of a 15-year-old girl, was ordered held without bond at a hearing in the Markham courthouse on Wednesday. Markham is in Illinois. Pierce has been charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Kiara Wyndham, 18, of Harvey, Kamika Coleman, 18, of Chicago, and MARIAH Edwards, 17, of Blue Island, all in Illinois, according to Cook County prosecutors. Police discovered a videotape linking Pierce to Edwards' murder in July 2010, per the reports from CBS station WBBM. Quote, in a very disturbing and chilling discovery, police investigated the murder cases, recovered a videotape made by Pierce that pictures him engaged in violent sexual relations with Edwards, close quote, says Alvarez. That's the state attorney, that's Cook County State's Attorney Anita Alvarez. Quote, this 17-year-old girl appears to be lifeless, and we believe that she was in fact deceased when the video was taken. So he was committing acts of necrophilia, which is having sex with a dead person. Cook County State's Attorney Anita Alvarez said authorities suspect there could be more victims. Quote, there appears to be somewhat of a pattern here, close quote, Alvarez said. Quote, we're looking to see if there's anything else out there or anyone else out there that could possibly be a victim. Close quote. Authorities said Wyndham and Coleman were both strangled about 3 weeks apart in August of 2009. Their bodies were discovered dumped in alleys in Blue Island and in Chicago. Edwards' body has not been recovered, but she was reported missing and hasn't been seen alive since July 2010. Orlando Police Chief Tim McCarthy, head of the South Suburban Major Crimes Task Force, said Pierce met his victims on phone chat lines and would sexually assault them before killing them. Investigators found 20 calls between Wyndham's cell phone and Pierce the night before her body was found, prosecutors said. He met her on a singles party line in August 2009, they said. DNA evidence linked Pierce to Wyndham, and video evidence refuted his alibis for the times of the crime, McCarthy said. Pierce has been in jail since August 2010 for the rape of a 15-year-old girl. Prosecutors said he lured the girl from her home into his car, drove her to his home, then dragged her into his home, where he choked her until she passed out, then raped her. The girl survived and reported the rape to the police, who arrested Pierce shortly after, according to prosecutors. Authorities said they want to hear from any potential victims who might have had contact with Pierce or from any families who believe a loved one might be a victim. Blue Island Police have set up a hotline for information at 708-396-7020. Again, authorities say they want to hear from any potential victim or victims who might have had contact with Pierce or from any families who believe a loved one might be a victim. Blue Island Police have set up a hotline for information at 396-7020. This ends the Trigger Warning Talk podcast. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Please, 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 if you are traumatized in any way, shape, or form and you need help, call 911 for immediate help. For any other help that you may need, there's a bunch of information listed in the show notes. This will be streamed audio and video. And until next time, I'm your host, LP. Thank you for joining Trigger Warning Talk. Peace and blessings be upon you.